Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the latest industry talk on consulting brought to you by the AMP student body team. My name is Ben Ackermans. I am the AMP president, and today I am joined by our very own VP of events, Sunny, as well as our guest speaker, Layan Kutob. Ms. Layan Kutob currently works as an associate partner at McKinsey Company. She first graduated from industrial engineering plus PUI at the University of Toronto in 2013, after which she completed her master in engineering in 2014 at U of T as well. She joined McKinsey in November of 2014 as a business analyst, then got promoted to senior business analyst and an engagement manager before becoming an associate partner. And fun fact, she is also the co-founder of our very own YNCN. Thanks for joining us today, Layan.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you folks. All student-run initiatives at UFT have a very special place in my heart, and I love consulting. So excited to bring both of those today.
Great. Well, we're super happy to have you here today and really looking forward to the conversation. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Sunny to get us started.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Layan. So just whenever you're ready, and we can start with our questions.
Happy to. I'm ready.
Okay, cool. So the first question is, could you please introduce yourself to us and maybe by answering the following questions? So when and how did you decide on a career in consulting? And also what prompted you to make the transition from engineering to consulting?
Yeah, happy to. What made me so in my undergrad journey, my brother, myself, and a couple of our close friends, we used to always compete in the consulting case competitions. We used to have fun and turn it, go more into these case competitions with just wanting to have fun and meet people and go somewhere new. And I never, even during doing these things, I never really thought about consulting until much later when I started thinking about what's next for me and reflecting on my network. And throughout various involvements, initiatives, and things I was part, there was very different people in my network from different places. And everyone that I looked up to and admired and respected somehow had McKinsey. So be it a person that, people I knew from 36 entrepreneur program, a professor, they were excelling in their personal and their career life, and they were just fun to be around. And the common thing was that they had worked at McKinsey, and that's what made me interested to McKinsey. So I was like, either, let me give me a shot because it sounds like it has incredible people. Otherwise, I was going to just do something in the startup world. That was the world I was closest to. I always thought I'd be a COO or an ops person of a startup that I could co-found with some friends. But yeah, I got the McKinsey offer and I thought I would join and do the typical kind of business analyst route, joined for 2 years and then move on. But I found what I love along the way. I really, really enjoyed the people I'm surrounded by, the routine, there's no real routine, the big complex problems you're solving, the people and the clients you meet along the way, rolling up your sleeves and solving some of your clients' biggest and hardest problems and feeling like you've had an impact on people's personal lives, as well as the broader kind of mission of what you're trying to solve. But at the end of the day, the things I love about consulting is the real close trust-based relationships I get to form with my clients. My clients have become my friends along the way. I've even hosted one of my clients back home in Jordan. And, you just end up building a very deep personal relationship with these people while solving big, complex problems. And, getting to work with awesome people every day of your week.
Thank you, Layan. That was very nice to hear. And it was really nice to see you to find and explore your passions along the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the next question would be, what does your typical day-to-day look like?
Mm-hmm. My day-to-day is So typically I go wherever my clients are. For instance, right now I'm actually in Vegas. That's where my client is. I focus on serving energy clients across the country on operational transformations. And day to day, basically, depending on, typically I spend 2 days of my week at my client, at every client. And so, there's traveling to your client and then just spending a ton of time with your team, problem solving. And that's part of the thing I love doing, the energy you get. You're in the same team room, you're putting your heads together to solve the problem. The team has put some thinking, you're whiteboarding, you're thinking about how do you push the problem forward and doing that. So that's part of how my day goes. Other parts of my day are me being out with my clients, either sharing kind of the insights that the team has brought, but also spending some personal time with them to better understand what's top of mind for them. What are some of their biggest challenges? What does that mean? And then me taking it back to our leadership and our teams and being like, hey, how do we think about continuing? These are some of the biggest problems for our clients. Like, how can we bring the best of McKinsey to them? Other days I'd be, doing proposal meetings with our clients or preparing for like LOPs, proposals, things like that. So this is just a flavor of the different things I'd be doing throughout the day.
Sounds really interesting, Layan. You mentioned, I just have a quick follow-up. You mentioned that currently your primary clientele is in the industry or the energy industry. Has that been kind of your focus during your entire time at McKinsey, or did you kind of, explore a few different industries before landing on that expertise,
Yeah.
or did that develop for you?
Yeah, great question. Um, I definitely explored different industries. At McKinsey, we call it doing the random walk. And so I embraced the random walk. I tried everything from healthcare, insurance, banking, you name it. And along the way, my biggest goal was to follow great people. At the end of the day, it's the people. I'm a big believer that the most important thing is surrounding yourself by the right people. And by doing that, I stumbled upon the energy industry and I found it very intriguing. I was like, there's a whole world under and above the ground that we take so for granted, our energy, where we get our electricity, our gas, all of that. It's at the cost of disruption. There's a lot of problems, complex issues that they're facing. And I'm like a heavy ops person. I love operational problems. And that's how I end up narrowing my scope to say, okay, I'm interested in the energy industry. And within that, my function is operations. And I think it ties up nicely back to I knew I'm an ops person. I was like, I'll be like a COO of a startup or something like that. And it also ties nicely to my program as industrial engineer. I think I just like, that's how I think about like just solving operational process related issues.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like it was a really natural progression, I guess, and you found your fit seamlessly.
Right. Yeah.
Great to hear.
Yeah, that's also the reason why I chose industrial engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, how often do you travel?
Every week. I
Every
mean,
week.
yeah, like at the end of the day, we're with our clients, and wherever your client is, we're going to be going there. My teams are typically on the ground Monday or Tuesday through Thursday, so a couple of days a week. Pre-COVID, that was like our life. Monday through Thursday, everyone is at the client. Now there's obviously more flexibility. We think about it. We want to be like thoughtful about travel, but I would say almost every week I'm traveling.
Oh my gosh. And that's like anywhere in the world. Just depends
I
on where the
mostly
client
do
is.
I mostly do Canada and the US is where my clients are. And so
Oh,
actually I'm actually in talks with another client in Toronto. So soon enough I might be closer to you guys.
yeah, welcome back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So our next question is, what are some myths about your company that you find are not true? So for example, I've heard that people at McKinsey typically work for an average of maybe 80 to even 100 hours every week. So is it actually true?
Hmm. Great question on like the working hours and the style. So Is it so the way I would explain the work is more like it feels like a roller coaster, depending on what phase in your project, what are the needs. Like some weeks are intense, other weeks are more calm and chill, and so there's the ups and downs, and it's really important to be thoughtful about it. And when it's a calm week, like take the time to enjoy it to yourself and whatnot. But yeah, on average, like yeah, it is a demanding, it's the work is demanding for sure, but it has its ups and downs, and also it depends on the type of study that you're doing. If you're doing a due diligence over a 2-3 week period, that's typically very intense. If you're doing, let's say, a 6-month implementation program with a client, that is a little bit more like could have like a bit more of a relaxed lifestyle, or like phases that come and go. And so at the end of the day, it really varies. The just saying you're always working 80 hours a week is not the case. And then the other great thing is, what I really resonated with me ever since I joined McKinsey was the concept of make it your own McKinsey. So going into consulting, yes, it's a great learning, very steep learning curve. You become very, and few, like very quickly you become well-rounded. But also like make it your own McKinsey, or in general, like make your own path, like going with what do I want? Like, do I want to do a random walk? Do I want something that's, am I interested in due diligences and always like kind of the intensity of the work? Do I want something a bit longer, more stretched out? Do I have certain periods in my life, for instance, I was like, hey, I need to slow down a little bit because I need to take care of other things. And so including now, I'm on a 60% program. So I have the ability to work a little bit less than I would have typically done. So there is like lots of cool flexibility that on the outside you might not immediately know about, but it's really important to take the pen and do what you want for yourself at the end of the day to make this sustainable.
That's a really interesting point you made on kind of, I guess your ability to have a little bit of flexibility in your workload, especially as you kind of progress through your career, and things come up in life as well that you have to deal with, right? So
Right.
that's certainly something that I didn't know kind of
Yeah.
exists. I was under the same preconception, where that you were kind of, there could be times, again, like obviously lots of variation depending on what project you're on, but there can be times where you're kind of relentlessly chained to your desk and you don't really have a way to kind of get that flexibility that people often do need in their real life. So that's it's refreshing to hear.
It is, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, especially at the end of the day, I believe organizations' most important asset is their people.
Absolutely.
And it's important to create the opportunities of, like, instead of being like, you're either like 100% in and like you might get burnt out, or you're out. It's like, no, how do I be smart and create programs where I could tailor and create flexibility for my people so that they could pull on them when needed. And so I think that's just in general a really important thing. And what's really important is talking about these things with the people, your mentors, your sponsors, your supporters, of like, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is the type of thing I need. How could we make things work? What can I do differently? And it's awesome. Like, my most challenging times, be it personally or like any of my most challenging times, these are the times when I opened up to the people around me and that support me, and that's where I actually felt the full support and being like, I actually love being part of McKinsey, or like I love it. Because your lowest times is when the times you feel like, are people there for you or not? And every single time people showed up, and it was very uplifting and encouraging, and it just makes the journey a lot more thrilling and supportive when you feel like you have the support you need. And another, actually, speaking about the flexibility, even kind of another form of flexibility with the McKinsey is sometimes you could say, hey, actually for the next few months, I don't want to be traveling, or I need to be local, or I need a little bit more of not intense work. And many times with our colleagues, we're like, okay, there's like an internal facing projects that you could be doing, or non-client facing, which in general would allow you a bit more flexibility. So there's always like ways to make things work.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Layan. And yeah, I also heard that McKinsey has really good support systems.
It
So
does. Yeah.
yeah, really nice to hear that you're enjoying it. And Ben, do you have any questions to add? And if not, we can move on to the next question.
No, feel free to fire the next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so yeah, so our next question would be, what are the needs to knows before getting into consulting, and any advice for determining whether you are a fit for the career? So the reason why I'm asking this is because due to the nature of the job and how it has been advertised to the public, I feel like a lot of people are really interested in consulting as and consider it as a potential career option, but how do you determine whether you truly fit into the career?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. I personally find so as you might know, to part of the recruitment process when you're doing your interviews, um, consulting is always every interview is split into two parts: the personal story, and then there is the case interview. And truly, the case is a great, great example of our day-to-day type of problem solving that we're doing, right? You have a problem, you break it down to smaller components, how you structure it, how you think about it, the types of questions, the insights you pull, the synthesis. So everything you do in this case is a flavor of what consulting is day in, day out. And so to me, that's a quick litmus test: is if you're enjoying it, then just know kind of this is the environment you're always in. Obviously, there's the added pressure of like, it's the real analysis, the client deliverable, the deadline, and all of that. But if you're enjoying the problem solving at the heart of it, that's how I typically tell people it's a good litmus test to know if you might enjoy it or not.
And that sounds so simple yet so elegant at the same time. And I feel like that kind of that general advice, like if you enjoy the core of it, then chances are, you're moving in the right direction. I feel like that can be applied to pretty much anything in one's professional career. So
Yeah.
it's nice to hear an established professional such as yourself echo that same sentiment.
Yeah. Yeah. I always find it kind of, like, yeah, it's just like, are you enjoying, is it fun or is it not?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, my advice to many people that are considering McKinsey or even considering leaving, I always tell people, it's demanding. So I find it really hard if you're not getting fulfillment out of it. You're putting all these hours. If you're not being fulfilled, I find it hard to justify how much effort are you going to put into it. And so it's important to just be honest with ourselves of what am I enjoying at the core or not, and making decisions through that.
Absolutely. And maybe just a follow-up question on that. I guess like, obviously being a natural problem solver is first and foremost the number one criteria, I guess, or I would imagine, for getting into consulting based on what you've said. McKinsey specifically, you've mentioned they have like, a really good culture of people there working around you and with you, and it seems like it attracts a certain kind of person. Can you speak a little bit to what are some of like I guess the intangible attributes that would make someone a good fit for working at McKinsey specifically?
Yeah. So what McKinsey looks is, for people who are strong leaders, people who are entrepreneurial, who have delivered impact, and strong problem solvers. So I would say kind of these would be the four main ones. Leader, why? Because you're going to be put into situations you need to really drive things forward. You need to own the work. You need to go out of your way and figure out how to do things. On the being entrepreneurial is whatever vague situation you're being put in, you will find your way, you will figure things out, you will know how to ask the right questions, how to think about opportunities beyond this, of like, hey, like this is going to be an unlock for our clients, or like how do you hear things and convert them into what does this mean in terms of opportunities. Impact, at the end of the day, we live and breathe impact at McKinsey. Like, we have a dual mission of delivering significant impact to our clients while developing incredible people and colleagues. And so this is really our mission at the end of the day, and problem solving is the heart of it. And yeah, like you're going to be put in situations where, you're working with clients much more senior to you. Like, how do you engage with people? How do you bring them along? Like, this is why all these skill sets are really important. Because you will always need to show up and like be sharp, be thoughtful, be compassionate, be sincere with your clients, and empathize with them. Many times you show up because they're going through a challenge. And so these are all really important things.
I see. Yeah, also a follow up. I was wondering if you mind telling us what kinds of preparation did you do before applying for McKinsey? Because you mentioned the case interview. So did you do like a lot of case practices before the interview?
Yeah. So there's like Victor Ching's material, like he has quite a bit. There's the book, Secrets, if I remember, something about Secrets of Consulting or something like that. So basically, I spent a bit of time just reading to understand the concept of frameworks. But the best and most important prep is just doing case studies. Find a buddy. And again, the advice is work with someone, because you don't want to kind of be like, just like working with yourself and trying to fit. Like, it really needs to be you working with a buddy, and that buddy does not need to be a consultant or like even applying, but they have the answers. They could guide you and see how you're thinking through. But just do lots of case prep. Practice the concept of being given a problem statement. How do you structure it? How do you put a framework against it? How do you think through it? How do you do the quick math? How do you synthesize insights and things like that?
Okay, thank you. It kind of reminds me of our ESP courses.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But they are very different, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is, do you feel that your company has offered you opportunities for growth? And if yes, in what areas?
I mean, absolutely. I've grown a lot across every dimension I could think about. At McKinsey, there is a famous thing is like, as soon as you get, like, you're always being uncomfortable at McKinsey. You're just being constantly not pressured, like, pushed in different directions and growing your mindset, growing your skill sets. And so there's constantly something. And the moment you become very comfortable in a certain role, you get pushed on to the next role. But yeah, my everything from my outlook in life, my mindset about how I think about problems, how I approach clients, how I approach people around me. I think, yeah, I've been put in very uncomfortable situations many, many times, and it just made me grow a lot. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think the fact of being comfortable to have CEO level conversations with your clients and them being able to trust you, and look up to you as the person who's going to help them solve their problems, is a huge growth for me, from a fresh grad to now being able to have these conversations, being at these tables with my clients, is a huge growth.
I think one thing that a lot of, undergraduate engineers worry about is they kind of, I think they'll see established professionals such as yourself. And I mean, you're extremely impressive, right? And people kind of look at that and they're like, how can I ever get there? Like, do I have what it takes? Like, and I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect between where people's confidence levels are, I guess, at this stage in the career, like kind of at the onset, versus what they aspire to be and what they see themselves, I guess, wanting or needing to become. And I think like a big point that you made is just the opportunities have been there, and that natural growth process and that natural learning process has kind of been something that's compounded on itself to bring you to where you are today.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And as I look back, typically kind of my biggest advice is, everyone, whoever, you're talking to has gone through the journey themselves, right? So come to people and like be authentic, bring your full self and ask these questions and understand and like, talk to different people across multiple stages in their journey. Actually, this is actually one of the things that my sister, the youngest sister, Taline, goes to U of T. A bit of a tangent here, but I have three other siblings. We all went to U of T. We all did engineering and we all did industrial engineering, and we're all part of Your Next. Anyway, so Taline and I, the youngest, who's now in her second year indie, we are working together on an Ask Me Anything session in celebration of Women's International Day, where we're going to bring a bunch of alumni. And the idea is to bring different alumni women from different parts in their journey and their career to be able to help draw exactly a bit of what you're saying. Is like sometimes you see someone, you feel like they're so far and they're so established and there's this huge gap. And the idea is just to be able to help a student, see themselves across the different people's journeys, like an early tenured person in their career, mid-tenured, much more established, and just to give people the idea of how does that journey look like.
That's very cool. Makes a ton of sense. Helps people connect the dots, right?
Right, exactly.
Also, it's incredible how all of you went into industrial engineering.
Right? We've got lots of diversity clearly amongst me and my siblings.
Strong representation of the youth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a family institution for us.
Okay. So did you feel that it was necessary to go back to school or to have an MBA before getting into consulting?
So I don't have an MBA. Back in the days, I think, yes, it was the standard was you need to have an MBA to get into consulting, but things have changed quite a bit. You don't need an MBA to enter into consulting or to continue in consulting. And I think at the end of this, a very personal decision, but it's no longer a requirement. I think the world has like changed quite a bit. It's no longer kind of a very even at McKinsey, like we have very diverse profiles now of people that join us. We have designers, we have data engineers, we have the scientists that are joining, we have lots of different people. So kind of that very standard, typical path is no longer the only path for you to be doing consulting, basically.
I have a question. It's a little bit different from what was just asked, but it just came to mind actually. Just kind of given that we're wrapping up, I wanted to get it in. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Layan, on where you see the consulting business, I guess, developing over kind of the next 10, 15 years. I mean, we've already seen the landscape of industries in general change post-pandemic with kind of the increase in virtual work. Do you see any kind of oncoming transitions that are going to directly impact consulting?
Well, absolutely. And I think we've already started seeing it with Gen AI. Things are changing a lot and very fast. In terms of how we're adopting them so that we can bring them to our clients. And so, for instance, with one of my clients, we're working on like, how do we bring Gen AI to do their planning and scheduling for all their work so that you take away hours and hours and tens of hours of work that could get done, in a split of a second. So one, I think like with the huge shifts that are happening, especially with how quickly technology is moving, how does it impact us in the consulting world? And then how do we equip ourselves and become smart and learn quickly so that we could come and help our clients as well with what's the latest and greatest? So I think these are two really important questions of even the way we do our work is going to change. And as we saw with AI, things are changing really, really fast. And so we need to stay ahead of the curve to see how could we become better consultants, what work could get automated so that we free up our people's capacity to be doing the real complex problem solving, and use this as inputs to kind of help us even get better. And then how do we help our clients? Is kind of some of the biggest things. The other thing is, to your point about like the virtual and the remote, McKinsey was always big on, you get apprenticed by sitting next to the person who's like a little bit ahead of you, and like you learn through apprenticeship. And so I really think it's going to be just important to figure out how do we continue apprenticing people, knowing that there is more like flexibility, people are all over, like what do we do? So just a bit of how do you continue working differently while creating the apprenticeship opportunities to our people.
That makes sense. Well,
And lastly, sorry, to that point is just as I mentioned, like we started, bringing the diversity of colleagues, diversity of backgrounds, and all of that. And I think this continues being important, having a diverse type of problem solving, different perspectives presented is going to become increasingly more important.
And that's key, right? Like kind of having a few different perspectives or different ways of thinking in the same room, brainstorming at the same time,
Exactly.
helps you
And you
attack
touch on it. Totally, it's the ways of thinking, it's not just the generalist, the consultant, the like we have that very standard way. Like a designer thinks very differently, their problem solving style is very different than the generalist consultant toolkit type of thing. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, Layan, I think we have time for one more question. Sunny, do you want to finish us off here?
Okay, cool. So yeah, the last question, like you kind of answered it to some extent. So is what advice would you give to the current U of T engineering students who want to pursue a career in consulting?
Yeah, my advice is do first of all the quick litmus test of, are you interested? Are you finding it that these are cool cases? But then yeah, go out and talk to people and learn more about what they do. And my big advice is kind of, this is a career you want to enter, is it's really important to be intentional about what you do. Like the world's your oyster. So think about like, what do I want my story to be in few years, and how do I work backwards? Because at McKinsey, it's really like you could almost do anything you could imagine of. If it does not exist, you could start it. And so go in, with a vision of what you want to do and what you want to try, and talk to people and make it happen. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be a lot more fulfilling than just, just almost just like doing just whatever the path you get put on. So take the pen and hold it and dream big and pursue it.
Valuable piece of wisdom right there.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Layan, well, I just want to thank you once again for joining us today. I'm sure our listeners are going to have a great time listening to this recording. I mean, you offered a lot of really, really sound advice and a lot of interesting insights. And yeah, it was an absolute pleasure having you join us today.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you both. Really enjoyed chatting together. And best of luck, Ben, in your next steps. And Sunny, I'm happy to chat more if you would like to talk about consulting.
Amazing.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for the
Layan.
great efforts you guys are doing to our students. I know you already have very busy schedules, so this is above and beyond. So thank you.